This is the Sheeran Looper Plus. It's a 2-track compact looper made by Ed Sheeran and his team. It's built like a tank, it's really heavy. These pedals are enormous but awesome, and Sheeran loopers say that it's tailor-made to amplify your creativity from the streets to the stage.
Stream turns into ocean, boats rise and defy the tide. Both of them run to each other. Valenti sees Jordan's eyes. Just a quiet and peaceful village, tucked away from the busy lights. Now they're thrown into the spotlight as the riverbanks lose their fight. Yeah. Helicopters hover over to pick up the poor in the pot, and the country watches the horror as the cars roll around in the wash. They're facing fear and anguish. People feel there is no hope. The lower bridge is lost, my friend. Look up on the Croydon road. The big rig punches through a sandstone, like a eagle flying through the harbor. We looked in a sanctuary and look back, Boscastle, you will live again.
So first and foremost, a big thank you to Sheeran Loopers for sending us out the Looper Plus. Now, as you notice straight away, I've actually got this in a specific mode. I've been playing around with it for a little while. And also, there are no wires. It can be battery operated, which is what I've got right now. 4 AA batteries will actually make it last for up to 6 hours. Now, if you're familiar with Ed Sheeran's stuff, whether you like his stuff or not, you have to tip his hat for basically bringing looping to the forefront.
For the last 18 years that I've been playing on stage, I've been using this loop station. It's just been me, and that's just how I've always done it.
And a long time ago, they made a custom loop pedal which was called Chewie. They made then Chewie 2, and now Sheeran Loopers have actually come up with loopers that you can buy, the Looper Plus and the Looper X. Now, there's a couple of things that actually are taken straight from Chewie. For example, this big green circle you can see there to show you when you're recording, or whether you're dubbing, or whether you're playing playback. These pedals, we need to talk about these pedals. These pedals are monsters. They are huge. They are premium die-cast aluminium, and they are built to last. They are so strong, and they are really good to press. They're really easy to actually press. So even though they are built to last, the great thing is you can actually press them really easily because of the cantilever they've actually built in here. Also, they don't go click, click, click. They're actually pretty silent. Which, of course, is a great thing. You don't want that clicky noise going into the looper. Now, just for context, and just for context only, size-wise, this one is a little bit bigger than things like another 2-track looper, for example, the RC500. So it is a bit bigger. It is definitely taller because of the size of those pedals, and this obviously slanted design, which obviously makes it really, really easy to press the pedals on. So in the top left-hand corner, we've got this navigation wheel, which you could just actually use as a button as well. And I've used it. I've actually pressed it with my feet when I've actually paired it up to be the right thing. So this is technically a third button when you're in performance mode. If you want to get into the menu, you actually hold it down, and then you're into the menu itself, but we'll get into that later. Right in the middle is this lovely 1.6-inch LCD display. As you can see, it's a TFT display, it's full color, and gives you fantastic views if you're recording, you can easily see it there, and you can see it at distance as well. Of course, being a full colour display, that really helps as well when, of course, the colours match up with the navigation wheel. On the right-hand side, we've got instrument, mic, and main, and we've got these lovely 3 LED meters. They provide real-time output level feedback, making it really quick and easy to adjust and know that you are actually at the right level. Then at the bottom, we've got these huge pedals. We've got record plus play, which is also overdub, and then we've got stop. You've noticed there, we're on battery power. I've not played with it for a while. A nice little feature actually goes into energy save mode. If we press something, it'll come back up and it's ready to go. On these pedals, you've actually got multiple things. So right here, we've got undo and track, and then we've got clear and track. So you'll notice if I double tap while it's stopping, you can actually go over to the next track if you're in a 2-track system, and I'll show you the song systems later. And you'll notice there's an undo and there's a clear. So if I go over to this, if I record something, you can see it goes red. If I then go and press it again, its default is going into overdub. So it's now dubbing straight away, which most loopers actually have as a record and play, and then you overdub afterwards. But you can change this in the settings if you're more comfortable with record, play, dub, as opposed to the default, which is record, dub, play. I actually prefer record, dub, play, so this suits me grand. Now, as we hit it again, we go into play mode, so you can see there's a nice green option here. And if I hold down, what I can do is I can undo. So a 2-second undo, and then it's undone it, and then again, hold down again, and we've got a 2-second redo. As you get the Looper Plus out the box, you'll actually notice it's not in this mode, and that's because I've got it in what's known as sync mode. You'd normally see it like this, where it's actually a 1-phrase looper, so you can actually have it into the single mode, and you can see it's just taking up the whole screen there. And these lovely meters are fantastic. They're really, really engaging because you can see where you are in the loop, and it shows you the loop in seconds, which again is really, really handy. If I hold down this one, it clears it, and we're ready for our next performance. Now the pedal actually weighs 1.7 kilograms, which is a little bit heavier than most pedals of this size, but it would be because, as I said before, it's premium die-cast aluminium, and these pedals are meaty. So looking at the rear panel, we actually have a combo jack here. So this is not just an XLR, it's a combo. So you can either plug a microphone in, or we can plug in another jack. So if your microphone is jack as opposed to XLR, you've got one there, and then you've got 2 dedicated jacks as well. So the microphone input, and you've also got instrument left and right. You've then got output, and output is jack 1/4 inch, and all of these 1/4 inches are balanced jack in and out. Next we have external foot switch, where you can plug in a single or a dual foot switch, either TS for the single or TRS for the dual. So something like a Nux dual pedal switch, or you've got things like the Boss FS6, FS7, that would plug in here. We have a dedicated TRS MIDI in port, and we have a Type B USB port. This USB port can do a couple of things, including being a 2-in, 2-out audio interface for live streaming or for recording, as well as transferring data and also MIDI information. And then finally, we've got our DC in. It's 9 volts at 500 milliamps with a cable restraint here and a dedicated power button. On the bottom, we've got these massive chunky feet, really, really nice, really, really robust. And then we've got our compartment here where we put in our 4 AA batteries, which you get in the box as well. And that will actually keep going for up to 6 hours. Now, as you look at the indicator, you've actually got these 2 icons at the bottom here. There's actually 5 icons. So this indicator shows you what mode the pedal is in. And this indicator is actually the battery. So it actually shows you the battery level. So I've been using it for a couple of hours, so it's dropped a little bit. Now, to access anything inside the looper other than just normal looping is this. Now, if I give it a single click, nothing happens, because if you give it a single click, that's its function. That's the 3rd button. But if we hold it down, we get this menu system. And this menu system is the simplest thing I've ever seen on a looper. It really is. So the options we've got at this point in the software is fade, reverse, speed, save, load, delete, logic, mode, assign, MIDI, output, USB, and about. And that's it. That is the entire menu system, which is really great because it means it's really concise and you just get what you need out of it. So, for example, this is in the first mode right now, which if I go over to mode, you can see it's in single mode. So we can actually go to multi-mode, sync mode, and song mode. So single mode is a single loop, one track with unlimited layers for creating simple loops, just like Ed does. If you go over to multi-mode and we give that a click, you'll now see what we saw at the beginning. And this is a 2-track mode with a global loop length. So if you put loop A into 4 bars, loop B will be 4 bars. And this is how Ed has his workflow on stage. You'll notice the icon here has changed to 2 little markers. If you go into mode again, the third one is how I had it set up, which is in sync mode. And sync mode means you can have loop A and loop B in different lengths, but it's only either a multiple or a division. So if I set loop A up in 2 bars, then loop B can either be a 1 bar, a 2 bar, a 4 bar, an 8 bar, 16 bar. So it's either a multiple or a division of that first loop. However, they stay in sync with each other, hence the name. And the final mode is song mode, and this is actually having the 2 tracks independent. So for example, you'll notice here we've got a little music clef, and we go over to B, you can actually see they change over. They'll only play one at a time, they don't play together. Now, one thing you need to be aware of if you're a loop artist and looking at one of these is Ed Sheeran's workflow. Ed's workflow is actually not by stopping loops, but actually muting loops. It's how he's always done it. It's how they've done it with the Chewie. So they record a loop, and then what they do is they mute that loop. The great thing about this is if you stop something, you can unmute things and then bring it all back. This is how he's able to do an equivalent of like start and stop all, because if you hit stop on this, it will stop all loops. However, you can mute loops, and this is where either the function button or the external pedal comes in. So what I like to do is go into Assign, go to the encoder and change it. So what we can do is it's actually on fade all at the moment, but we can actually say go on to track and give that a click. So now if I click this, it clicks between A and B. Really nice. So if I go to B and hit record, and then we overdub, and then we hit play, I can press this button with my foot, quite easily actually, and we're on the other track, ready to record. But there's a couple of different options in the menu when you come to assigning. So you've got the encoder, you've got the foot switch 1 and the foot switch 2. So you can do lots of different things from current solo to solo A and B. You can actually change it for record, play, dub for B. We can have all these different ones, undo, redo, current, mute. So you can have all these options. And it is really, really cool, but you do have to think of it in a slightly different workflow. Now, one nice little touch regarding power is you can plug it in 9 volts, 500 milliamps. We can use the batteries. We can also plug it in by USB. So even if you didn't have batteries on this, you can plug it in by USB and it will power up. Now you can store up to 128 loops on this, and the maximum storage time is actually 3 hours. You can store up to 1.5 hours per loop if you really want to. The storage space on this is actually 4.1 gigabytes, and you've got unlimited overdubs. And the whole system's audio bitrate is 32-bit. If you're importing loops into this, you can go from 16-bit right up to 32-bit float WAV at 44.1 kilohertz with stereo support. And with the output, it's set as stereo by default. You've got mono as well, where both of them will actually sum together no matter which one you plug in. But the other one you've got as well with output is you've got split. And what's really clever is all the loop elements will actually go to the left, and then your input signals, so your mic, your guitar, will all go to the right. That's really handy if you want to actually control the loop level independently of the inputs. With MIDI control via a pedal or in other forms, there's an actual list that you can use to control stuff by MIDI, including everything from record each individual thing, to soloing, to muting, changing the mode of the song. And with MIDI program messages, you can load up the different slots from slot 1 to 128. So you got slot 0 to 127. So you can load up different songs just by pressing a MIDI pedal. So let me go over a couple of things that I really like about this looper. First and foremost, we have to talk about these pedals. These pedals are just beefy as, massively cool. And I put a photograph up on the community about putting this next to a Boss Aussie 500. And you can just see it, like the pedals are huge in comparison. They're also built like a tank. They are just so good. So Ed's team from Sheeran Loopers have done a fabulous job of these premium die-cast pedals. And the other thing as well that I really like about it is the feet. Now, when you get a looper and you put it on the floor, one thing that happens as you start pushing the pedal is it starts doing this and it starts moving across the actual floor. This thing has not moved when I was playing it for over an hour. It stayed exactly where I wanted it to be, which is what you want in a performance-based looper. This TFT display is lovely and it really works. It's really simple. And the nice cool thing that they've added in is the LED meters. I really like this. I think it's a great indicator to see where you are, certainly for the main as well as the instruments and the mic. Nice little trick like is obviously they've got a combo jack, so you can plug a jack in as well as an XLR. And for the USB side, it literally is plug and play. The performance you just saw before, I plugged USB-B to USB-C into my phone to record the audio. It just picked it up. Now, improvements. One thing I'd really like to see is when you actually hit record on here, this just goes round and it goes round in this lovely animation, and that's fine because the looper doesn't know when you're going to actually stop. But what I'd really like to see on this is when you press this, it then actually goes round the same length that the loop goes across. That gives you another indicator to say where you are in the loop. It doesn't do that, it just goes round in its own timing. So for me, when I first started, that was a slightly off-putting because I was like, that loop is not that fast. So I'd like to see an update where they actually update that to be the length of the loop. So as you hit 12 o'clock, it goes back to bar 1, beat 1, as it were. Talking of bar 1, beat 1, there is no BPM indicator, so it doesn't tell you what the BPM of that loop is. But if you're just performing and playing, that shouldn't be an issue. But if you want to marry up a loop to something you've created and you want to think, hang on a minute, does that drum beat that I've got on my Mac and I'm going to import it in, is that going to be the right BPM? Or do I need to alter that BPM slightly? So that would be quite nice somewhere to show what the BPM is. The two big improvements I want to see on the next version of this, the really strange one for me, is no MIDI out. And I don't understand why they didn't supply a MIDI out through TRS. You could fit it right there. There is literally a space for it. The thing is, even if you're not going to actually send MIDI from the Sheeran Looper Plus to something else, then you might want it to go through. So you might actually want to send something from a MIDI pedal that actually goes through the looper and over to something else to trigger. The other thing with MIDI out is meaning that this can control something else, like a beat buddy. A lot of people have them. A lot of people have other things they want to control. Maybe they want to control the timing of a delay, and you set a timing or a BPM actually on the looper, and then that BPM controls the delay of your delay pedal. That would have been really nice to see. It's a real shame this doesn't have TRS MIDI out, but it does have MIDI out by USB. But let's talk about USB for a second. USB-B. Why? Now this may be at the time when they were building it and they had to confirm a certain connection by a certain point. What I'd like to see is a USB-C on the back. That would be fantastic for mixing. That'd be fantastic for just bringing it down. You're recording it by USB. Now in the Looper X, obviously it is much bigger, and that is a quad-core DSP from Headrush. This is a single core. Now, I don't know whether that's because of the size, that they couldn't fit it in, but I don't know whether that's actually limiting what this can do in terms of things like MIDI and USB out. The other thing as well is, let's get real with this for a sec, and it does have a main competitor. When we're talking about the market, we're talking about this. Let's be honest, we're talking about it. But let me just put these two next to each other, because this is heavy. Those buttons are fab. I mean, that is the winner for buttons. Honestly, it's really, really fab. But there's a couple of features in here that are missing, obviously, from the Looper Plus. Things like customizing these buttons completely however you want to, but that does cause confusion. And the fact is, this is meant to be a looper that you just plug in and go. And for that reason alone, it is really simple, but it is excellent. Now, are you going to get a load of Ed Sheeran copycats just because Ed Sheeran's brought out a Sheeran looper? Maybe. What I want to see is functionality and how the workflow is on a looper for creativity. Whether you're playing Ed stuff, your own stuff, it doesn't matter at that point. If you press the wrong button or the button does something that you don't expect, how do you recover from that in a live performance? Or are you going to change your workflow for this? Having said all of that, this thing is a monster, and it is a good monster. It's a fantastic thing to play with. And the fact that I've been using it for all these different performances, I've been using it all for this review. That's the battery level, by the way, and I've been using this for hours. If you're busking in the street and you just want to plug something in, this is a great, great option. You've got some nice advanced features, you've got some high quality audio, but more importantly, a pedal that's not going to go anywhere because of those huge feet and those fantastic pedals. The Sheeran Looper Plus at the time of the recording of this video is at $299. That's both $299 for US and $299 for the UK. And I've got a link that's underneath this video where you can go and get the Looper Plus and the Looper X. That link takes you to a couple of different places. They are affiliated links, but obviously for what's best for you. So we've got B&H and Sweetwater for the US, we've got Tonum for Europe, and we've got Amazon as well if you want to go and pick them up there. By clicking those links, they are affiliated links and they do help out the channel, but at no extra cost to you. Now, I've been speaking with Sheeran Loopers and they have been talking to me about this and of course the Looper X. And one thing they've been talking about is firmware updates. This thing could completely change just on a firmware update, its functionality, the way it works. And this is a fantastic product. The build quality is insane. when this is their very first product to market straight out the gate. Now, it's not their very first product. They made things like Chewie, and Chewie had to do world tours. So those pedals are used and abused while Ed's on tour. They've got to work. I can foresee this and the X being updated and being possibly one of the best pedals that you can actually get. So will you be getting the Sheeran Looper Plus for its build quality, for its audio quality, and for its workflow? Let me know in the comments section below. I'm going to continue to do videos for this, and we're going to go on a journey together as they release more updates to see how it improves. Now, the other product is their flagship, which of course, this is the Looper Plus, and then there's the Looper X. So if you want to have a look at the Looper X video, then click here. And if you want to have a look at the live stream where we went live with the Looper Plus and people ask questions, then click this one right here.